name is Mike LaValle, and I go by Porkchop, and I am an artist here in Asbury Park. Bradley Hoffer and I made this big giant Christmas tree out of cardboard during the holiday season, and we had all the leftovers and a bunch more material, and I decided to ask Brad if he wanted to maybe do a pop-up show and make sculpture out of it. We had all these cut-offs and all these extra pieces from the snowflakes and the tree and all and the nutcrackers and whatever. So we decided to, just have fun, sit in the gallery for like a month and just make art.
So once we started doing that, I realized that I really want to start doing my robots in 3 dimensions, much like the nutcrackers. So what happened was the week before, between Christmas and New Year's, I decided it was time to make a robot out of cardboard, and it all came from the geodesic dome. I said, if I can make a geodesic dome, then I can do anything else out of cardboard. And I made a dome at a certain dimension, and then I scaled everything to that dimension from an original drawing. You were impressed by how many people were out, and why did that happen? Because we were not gonna let it not happen. And I mean that sincerely. There was no way that this wasn't gonna, that's why we kept pushing and pushing and pushing each other, and we worked our asses off.
I didn't have any expectations about what this was going to be. It was like Brad and I were going to come in here. We've worked together forever. Like, this is just going to be fun. We asked Jason to come in because he's a friend. And we were like, it'd be cool to see what he makes. So it was just like a fun experiment.
My name's Jason Stumpf. I'm a furniture maker. I'm based here in Asbury Park. I've been building furniture for a little over 30 years now.
We're standing in front of work that you've constructed recently of cardboard. Why don't you tell me a little bit about why cardboard?
Porkchop and Brad called me one day and told me that they were working on this pop-up cardboard show and asked if I wanted to jump in and have some fun with them. So of course I said yes. And one of the first thoughts that I had was, I've had this idea of doing a more sculptural thing with my designs. These chairs and table are all designs of mine that I've built previously out of actual wood that you can sit in and use as furniture. So this was a fun chance to kind of play with that idea and bring it into life-size scale.
What was it like to collaborate on work with a couple of other artists? I assume you normally work by yourself?
That's true, I do normally work by myself, and it was really fantastic. I've known Porkchop and Brad for a long time, and I've done collaborations in the past with other people, usually designers and architects on cabinetry projects or furniture projects. I've never done anything like this that was just specifically to be art, and it was a great experience. Like, it was just so much fun, like with no real purpose, like no sense of responsibility to some stated goal, which is not how I usually work. So that was like challenging for me to get out of that box of, well, I don't know what to do if I don't have like a bunch of stated goals or problems to solve. And the problem is just like, here's a pile of cardboard, why don't you make something cool?
These are like cut-offs of one of the shapes that was on the tree. So I took it and, manipulated it, and I was like, wow, that looks like a flower. So I started making these kind of flowery shapes, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool if it had like a centerpiece. So then I started making these like weird skull faces and boats and, tropical flower looking stuff. I was trying not to be so serious about it, because like when I was down in Miami for Art Basel, all that stuff's so serious, and museum shows are so serious. I just needed something that just go wacky and make whatever, So that was the plan.
What is it about cardboard you found that you didn't know about working with it?
It's an amazing medium to kind of sketch with in 3 dimensions. Everything here just was about having an idea and playing with it and seeing where it went to. And as a material, it's very fast to work with. It doesn't have a preciousness. Like if you make a cut wrong, it doesn't matter. It's not like you had a $300 piece of wood that you just ruined or some expensive material that you can't replace. You can just try things, and it works pretty fast, and it's put together with hot glue. So, everything can happen very, very quickly. It's like having a model shop or a prototype shop where you just work out a real rough idea. It really opens up this way to just literally play with ideas. And that's kind of what we did for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, was just come in here every day and play.
So for this big thing with the horns over here, like I said, it's all made out of the scraps. So I had no idea what it was going to look like before I started. I just started gluing things together and making this shape, and then started using these arms that were on the Christmas tree, and I was like, oh, those would be cool tentacles. So I started using them underneath it, and then I started positioning, so it started to have like motion, and I started getting excited about it, because when I started I was like, oh man, I just wasted hours on this thing. It's a total piece of garbage. But once I started putting eyes and the frills on it, then I started getting all excited. I was like, oh my god, look at it, it's coming together, it's finally coming together.
After the table and chairs, I decided I would try and make an igloo. I thought that would be kind of fun. Let me see if I could do an igloo out of cardboard. And I thought of a couple of different ways to do the construction and looked up some geometry of how to take flat panels of cardboard and turn them into a sphere. And got, probably 2/3 of the way through this thing, and one morning Porkchop said, hey, why don't you turn it up on its side and let's see what it looks like. I think that might be cool. So we tipped it up on its side, and the shape reads differently, and we all thought it read a lot stronger just as a form. Porkchop's initial reaction was like, it also kind of looks like a snail shell that way. Ended up just going with it and making a snail.
Everything evolved as we went. Jason was building an igloo that turned into a snail. I mean, it's amazing. And he's like, I'm not a sculptor. I'm like, you are now. Go, you can do it. And he just buckled down, got the glue, got the cardboard, made an amazing snail. I was mostly impressed and most satisfied with how happy everybody was. I haven't seen that many people that excited for. I'm not saying that the art made them excited. Everybody was just excited, and and that was because of me, and because of Jason, and because of Porkchop, and that's a good feeling.
You work very closely with Jen Hampton, the gallery owner. How does that relationship help spur you on?
Well, she was super gracious. They were closed for January to do inventory and to help, to fix the walls and whatever. So I asked her, since you're closed, could we use the space? We're thinking about doing this pop-up cardboard thing. She was super supportive. I'm like, yeah, you guys should just do your thing. And, so that was great. Because you wouldn't have that opportunity to have this giant space to make weird cardboard stuff,
Does your reputation in town help with your work here? And how do you find working with people you know and live among?
Yeah, it definitely helps. And the more work you do, the more people see it. They're like, oh, I'm opening a restaurant. Let's get that guy that made all those murals, or, and then they become friends, and then they tell people. So it's great. It's also cool to work with your friends and people that you've met over the years. It brings the community, a little closer.
How long did it take you, and how much did you actually produce?
I guess we were in here for 3 weeks, not necessarily every day. And I think something 25, 30 pieces. I personally made probably 10 or 11, not including these little, I started making these little weird hand puppets out of paper.
I think we have to keep doing more things like this, like all of the things that, the Wooden Walls Project pushes out, with the things that you guys are trying to bring awareness to. I think the more that we do, the more that we'll grow that. If I just go out into the suburbs or I go to some random place, I'm not going to find a community of artists and musicians and creative people like there is here. And I think that the main thing we need to do is assign value to that. Just like if somebody assigns value to a cardboard sculpture, it can last and it can be beautiful for a long time. If we can convince the whole community to assign value to the arts and the people that make that art, I think we have a much better chance of attracting more people to bring more of their energy and their creativity into what's already here.
You've worked a lot in Asbury Park. You live in Asbury Park. There's some talk about getting more artists to come and live in Asbury Park as a way of continuing the art trend that Asbury Park has in its history. What do you think it would take to bring more artists into town if you see it from your perspective of over the years having lived and worked here?
It's really expensive to live here. Once the development comes in and the taxes go up, people got to ask more for the rent, and then, it's just a trickle-down problem. It becomes unaffordable. If there was affordable housing for artists to come in and be able to work, then more artists would come. But right now, that's not here yet. I'm almost getting priced out as far as living here, so we'll see what happens.
I'm really stoked with the whole show. I didn't have any notion of what was going to happen when we started, and I don't think Porkchop or Brad did either. It was just a matter of like, hey, let's make a bunch of stuff out of cardboard. And the three of us played off of each other. There was a little bit of that sense of competition and peer pressure of like, oh, you're doing that? Like, okay.
Like, I literally feel like while we were doing this, Jason and Porkchop were picking me up and throwing me ahead, and I was doing the same thing. Like, come on, step it up, You were challenging each other, but not in an aggressive way. It was very organic. As it turned out to be a really. Porkchop and I have known each other for 23 years, so our bonding is fine. But Jason and I and Porkchop, we're really good friends, but we haven't spent that much time together, so it was really nice too.
After it's all been set up and you're ready for your opening, what do you think about the entire exhibition?
It's definitely gone way further than I thought it was going to. Like, I didn't think we would take up as much space as we did, so it just grew like crazy, and it became like a whole environment rather than just like, oh, there's 3 cardboard sculptures in the middle of this big giant gallery. It definitely exceeded what I ever thought.
I feel great. I really feel great. Like I said, I'm kind of going broke right now, but I'm very happy right now. I really am.
Just for artists to be able to like expand, beyond what they usually do, and to have a whole other realm of things to fool with is pretty awesome.
I'm not trying to impress my peers, actually. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I know what I'm doing is good. There we go. And I'm done.